Hey everyone and welcome to a new video of Wargaming Miniature Showcase. Unfortunately, it took me way more time than I had hoped for. In this video I will walk you through the process of creating and finishing a 3D printed model I designed with the help of a friend. If you haven't seen my first video on 3D printed parts for Wargaming terrain, you can click on the link in the corner. For this demonstration I created a 3D model with the help of my pal Felix. I used Blender, a powerful tool for design and animation. Creating this Dwarven paragon took me about 6 hours. The main portion of the time was used for tweaking and detailing the design. I exported the file to the printer software of my Up Mini. First off, I decided to print this one standing vertically because I didn't want to have seams from joining several parts together. This way the print would need a lot of supports for the arms and the hammer. If the part would be sliced in half, it may be printed almost without supports. Maybe I'll try that later. Printing with supports, you want to have as much as necessary for a successful print with minimal waste of material. I started with rather safe parameters, which formed supports even around the beard and the knees where they weren't exactly needed. I tweaked the printer settings to reduce the supports to minimal amount in my opinion. The source file and the parameter set can be downloaded for free at Thingiverse. An advantage of printing the model vertically is the better print resolution of details like the belt or the tiny grooves than on a laying model. The downside is a much longer printing time because of the over 400 layers that took about 3.5 hours. The next step would be testing different methods of smoothing the grainy surface from printing. Filling and sanding this delicate piece would be difficult and very time consuming. I was looking for a quicker way to smooth parts surface and found that ABS plastic dissolves in acetone. In the previous video I dipped the whole model into a bowl of acetone. For a model as big as the dwarf, I would need a lot of acetone that would evaporate quickly. I was looking for a more reasonable method with more control of the smoothing result. I'm testing two different methods here, acetone from a spray can and the hot vapor method using a rice cooker. Thanks to Angus from Maker's Muse for the tip. Word of warning here, both methods are dangerous and can seriously harm you. Don't try this yourself if you aren't 100% confident how to handle this stuff. For this test I'm wearing safety glasses, a respirator and gloves as protection, and I'm working outside. I'm starting with acetone from the spray can. I bought this in a graffiti art store as paint cleaner. I sprayed the model from all sides and quickly found that simple light dusting it like you do when priming with the spray can has minimal to no effect because the acetone evaporates too quickly. So I hit the dwarf pretty hard until it had a wet shine to it. I repeated this twice. I will discuss the results later after priming because the difference are more visible then. The hot vapor method uses a rice cooker to evaporate the acetone quickly and seal it with the work object in an enclosed space. The acetone condensates all over the model that I had in the freezer for some time to enhance the process. To avoid contact with the hot surface and to ensure overall coating, I put the model on a bent grate. While preheating the cooker, I prepared some acetone in a shot glass. When preheating is done, I switched the cooker off and checked temperatures with the laser thermometer. I waited until it cooled to about 80 degrees Celsius, what is more than enough for acetone to boil. I placed the dwarf on the grate into the cooker, carefully poured the acetone in on one side and immediately closed the lid. The hot acetone vapor slowly rises and coats the entire model. After about half a minute, the acetone starts condensating on the lid from the inside, which shows that the process has finished. I carefully lifted the lid to let the acetone vapor escape and waited about 5 minutes for the work object to dry. I made two tests and found that both the amount of acetone used and the time you let the part inside the vapor affect the results. For the test I used half a shot glass in 40 seconds and a quarter shot glass in 25 seconds. Let's compare the results. The spray can model shows minimal to no effect, although I sprayed it twice. It retains all its details and its grainy surface. I conclude that it would need a massive amount of acetone spray to make this method work. I wouldn't recommend it. Looking at the model that was heavily vapor smoothed, you can clearly see the difference. The printing grain is gone, but the model lost most of its sharp edges. The details have lost some of their depth but remain intact, but it clearly was a little bit too much. My favorite is the lightly vapor smoothed model. It retains all of its details with an overall reduction of the printing grain. Looking closely, you can see that the model is smoother at the bottom because of the rising acetone vapor in the rice cooker. The bottom part has longer exposure to the vapor than the top. In conclusion, vapor smoothing works fine with 3D printed parts with ABS, but you need some experience with the exposure time and the amount of acetone. Finally, I decided to paint the models and turn them into table pieces, maybe a quest marker or something. I used dark gray base coat and highlighted with dry brushing. Brown and green pigments were added to create some dirt and weathering effects. As the heavily smoothed model lost most of its edges, I painted this with a bronze color to represent that it was cast from metal and not carved from stone. I washed it to give it a sort of patina weathering look. To use the pieces on the table, I wanted to create individual bases for them. I used my hot wire cutter to cut them from styrofoam. Initially, I wanted to try something new and used the plaster rock method from Woodland Scenics and the Bracton rock painting method. I applied some plaster to the styrofoam and let it dry. After that, I carved and chipped the surface to give it a rock face look. A detailed description can be found on the Woodland Scenics channel, a link is in the description. After I was content with the result, I applied some art gesso as the base for the liquid earth pigment colors. I painted it with the Bracton method, but I haven't been satisfied with the results for two reasons. My acrylic paints don't seem the best choice when being heavily diluted. I'm considering to buy better paints for this. On the other hand, I found that the realistic look of the rocks doesn't fit to the more exaggerated look and paint job of the dwarves. So I base coated the rocks again and dry brushed them. Here are the finished models. I turned the first one into a winter scene by applying baking soda with PVA glue and white paint as snow. For the other dwarfs, I added some foliage and grass to the bases and weathered some of it with earth pigments. I hope you like the results. Maybe you would want one of these dwarfs for your own, but unfortunately I can't manufacture these dwarfs on demand. If you own a 3D printer, you can make one yourself with the files I uploaded on Thingiverse. For those of you who don't have a printer at your disposal, I uploaded the part to Shapeways, who will print and ship the piece for you. Thanks for joining me. If you liked this video, please subscribe to the channel or join me on Google+. If you have other experience or suggestions for 3D printed terrain pieces, please leave a comment below or on my blog. Thanks for watching.